Welcome to Class Day 1995. For 288 years now, the senior class has gathered to celebrate and to reflect upon its Harvard experience. Our presence at Harvard has involved a tradition haunted by ghosts and kept alive by incantations, by midnight frolicking with kindred and wiser and funnier and sometimes weirder, but always illuminating souls. We've walked through this old yard countless times, often dodging shadows of greatness. Sometimes I wonder, how do we measure up? How will the class of '95 fare in the competition for shelf space in Widener Library? We are surrounded by stories about people of impact, and these stories can both intimidate and inspire. The most unforgettable experience in my 4 years here, ironically, took place when I returned to South Africa to do research during a semester off. As I walked through the middle of a university campus, I heard the first bang. Then I looked up, and I saw a young white policeman fire a second shot into a black teenager, an alleged car radio thief. The policeman left the scene. While another student ran to call an ambulance, I applied pressure to a hole in the victim's chest, and he told me that his name was Jesus. Jesus survived. I went to see him in the hospital. A week later, no one from his family had called or showed up. But we spoke together about him going back to school, playing soccer again, living free from poverty and neglect. After another week, he escaped from the hospital, even though he was under guard. I never heard from him. Later, I found out that his real name was not Jesus, and he had prior arrests. But all I really learned was that I could not help him. Even suppose that he had accepted my assistance, I had been told that the good we do will often only whisper back at us. The failures will shout, and they will call for cynicism. The violence of that experience, and then the hope, and then the dramatic disappointment brought me back to Harvard. I have known this futility here, of not attaining the ghostly heights, of not making any difference at all. But all of us have witnessed in recent times the ascent in that same country of one of this century's greatest spirits, in Nelson Mandela. For him, there was no historical precedent. Has anyone before him forgiven and then led his enemy after 27 years of imprisonment? So on the whole, I have been trying to work out what it means to be inspired rather than intimidated by legends who seem to have accomplished more than I ever could. And I ran across this quote from a University of Chicago professor. The delusions which conceal from us our true situation all amount to this, that we are, or can be, wiser than the wisest men of the past. I realize that I like delusions such as these, and that we are rich in this, not in awareness of our limitations, but in our ignorance. We will not necessarily become wiser or better or happier than the ghosts who haunt Harvard halls. But are we any less awestruck than Henry David Thoreau or John Kennedy when they eluded shadows? My point is that we are certainly no less likely to succeed than the ghosts we dodge. I hope we gather our illusions while we can. During the past 4 years, we as a class have shared our dreams with one another. Now we must continue to nurture them, spread them around, maybe even make them real. Finally, we want to open the ceremony by acknowledging the class committee, who has worked hard all year long in planning today's ceremony. We hope you enjoy it. We put in for sunshine, but let's make the best of our New England weather. Thank you very much.
My name is Tammy Butler, and I'm one of our class marshals, and it's an honor for me to introduce our Dean of the College, Fred Jewett. Getting a glimpse of Dean Jewett's activities and accomplishments at Harvard is to get a glimpse of someone who really seems to have a handle on what life is all about. A graduate of the college in 1957 and Harvard Business School in 1960, Dean Jewett has reached the pinnacle here at Harvard. And yet he still takes time and seemingly great pleasure in counseling 10 freshmen each year. All students seem to have a special place in his heart. When you ask people about Dean Jewett, you hear the same phrases repeated. So humble, so sincere, so unassuming, and so innovative. He was instrumental in the merge of Harvard and Radcliffe, as well as the implementation of the need-blind admissions process at Harvard. Between his official duties as Dean of the college and his various committees, it is reported that Dean Jewett definitely does not know the meaning of an 8-hour day. Dean Jewett is truly a friend of students. He is a familiar face at campus events of all kinds, and I know from my own experience that he's a great supporter of women's basketball. Dean Jewett, we the class of 1995, have been so fortunate to have had you as a friend and as an administrator. We thank you for all of your efforts on our behalf. Harvard has been fortunate to have had you as a part of the university for so many years. We know your commitment to the university will continue even after your official duties have ended. Thank you for the example you have set for us, and thank you for being with us today. Classmates, families, and friends, I'm proud to introduce to you Dean Jewett.
Members of the class of 1995, parents, and friends, it's a special privilege and pleasure for me as Dean of Harvard College to be asked to speak to the graduating class at this last formal ceremony before commencement. We have shared much of the experience of Harvard and Radcliffe together during the past 4 years, a time when much of significance has happened in Cambridge, not the least of which is a new president of the university with an exciting new vision for the college. For many of us, however, the tragic events of recent weeks have both sobered us and demonstrated that human relationships at the college are of paramount importance to us all. While we grieve with the families and friends of the deceased students and mourn their loss, we must both try to learn from the tragedy and at the same time not let it outweigh the many wonderful things which have happened to your class during your years at Harvard. For me, these past 4 years have given the opportunity to know and work with so many students in this class, and this has been a special and wonderful experience, one which makes working at Harvard unique and rewarding. I will particularly feel the loss of the class of '95, since several of your members have become close friends who have provided me with ideas, constructive criticism, and helpful support. We also share a special bond since both you and I will end together a major part of our Harvard experience. For you, I trust that there will be many future opportunities to renew your ties to the college. For me, this year and the graduation of your class marks the ends of a relationship to Harvard that began more than 40 years ago. I have a special debt of thanks to the class of '95 for helping to make my final year as dean so pleasant and rewarding. I would also like to extend my personal thanks and those of the college to the parents and families of the students graduating tomorrow. You have shared with Harvard perhaps your most valuable treasure, your sons and daughters. It is probably not a surprise to you that these young men and women have also become one of the college's most valuable assets. Our students bring to Harvard incredible native talents, enormous energy, and the extraordinary idealism and optimism which add youth and future promise to an old and venerable institution. Without this annual infusion of talent and enthusiasm, colleges like Harvard would atrophy and die. What is even more extraordinary, however, is that most of you have actually paid Harvard to let your sons and daughters come here. Up to now, then, Harvard has certainly struck the better bargain, although we hope that future years will redress the balance as students begin to profit from their Harvard experience. I should also at this point congratulate and thank the members of the class for what you have achieved here and for what you have contributed to Harvard in the process. Your academic records speak for themselves. 86% graduating with honors, 79 graduating summa cum laude, Rhodes, Marshall, and many other scholarships, countless prizes and opportunities for postgraduate study. I'm sure that no other college or university in the world can boast of such a class. Your extracurricular record is equally splendid. The range of musical, artistic, and theatrical activity has been amazing. This fact has never been more obvious than during this spring's third Arts First Festival, where so many individuals and groups perform with incredible talent and enthusiasm. The college has an enormous debt to all the students who make our lives brighter and richer. Publications of all sorts, journalistic, literary, and political, have flourished. Political interest and activity on campus have staged a comeback, including major controversy about the need for a viable student government. Athletics have prospered at the highest level of intercollegiate competition and the broadest base level of intramural participation. During the 4 years, there have been national titles in both men's and women's sports. Intramural competition has also been memorable, including spirited annual competition for the Strauss Cup. During your time here, however, there has also been a rise in the level of political activity and discourse. Issues such as free speech, sexual harassment, discrimination against minorities, political correctness, and ROTC have claimed a major share of attention in the college, as well as in society in general. My personal observation is that the class of 1995 has consistently manifested its commitment to intense debate on issues and to responsible social action. You have urged the college to set progressive and responsible policies and have worked yourself through student government, through PBH and other social action groups, through the Harvard Foundation, and through many other student groups and coalitions to advocate constructive change. This class has worked hard as individuals to help solve problems and has acted collectively as conscience and force for change, both here at Harvard and in the wider community. In some cases, you have achieved great success. In others, such as a push for a more diverse faculty, you may have felt frustrated by what appeared to you as an incredibly slow progress, indifference, or even resistance on the part of the university. You have differed with the college and on occasion with me about proposed changes in college policies. In some cases, these disagreements have been resolved. In others, we have continued to disagree while respecting, I hope, the arguments and good faith of those with whom we may differ. What is of central importance, however, is that your class and your generation once again cares passionately about important social and public issues, both inside and outside the college, and is willing to work hard and to sacrifice much to improve the society around you. As you leave Harvard, I want to urge you and charge you with the responsibility to continue using your many talents and skills to improve the lives of those around you in the communities where you live and work. Cynics often maintain that college activism and idealism wane when students graduate and enter their chosen profession. I know that this class will prove the cynics wrong. Whether as doctors, teachers, lawyers, public servants, or leaders in the world of finance and business, you have the capacity to help less fortunate members of society and to solve many of the problems and ills which beset this country and the world. One of the great traditions of this university is that alumni feel responsibility to the nation and the world well beyond their own personal self-interest. When the class of 1945, for example, here for its 50th reunion, graduated, the world was in a turmoil of war. Students and faculty alike were engaged in a great cause which dominated their university years and the years thereafter. Following the end of World War II, Harvard graduates played a vital part in rebuilding of a war-torn world. The class of 1970, here for its 25th reunion, also faced a troubled era and registered forcefully its opposition to what they perceived as an unjust war in Vietnam. Graduates of 1970 also committed themselves to the cause of civil rights and to the process of healing in America torn apart by the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King. Their efforts made profound changes both in the university and in the country as well. The class of '95 faces a world where for the first time in generations there is no immediate threat of global nuclear war. There remain in the world, however, areas such as Bosnia, where problems of violence and suffering require innovative solutions and leadership. On other fronts, the challenges of providing health care for all citizens, of finding a cure for AIDS, of revitalizing our cities and our educational systems, all face you as the potential leaders and problem solvers of tomorrow. I must also charge you, as alumni and alumni of Harvard and Radcliffe, to continue to care for the well-being of your colleges and to ensure that the university continues to maintain the standards and the role in society which has characterized its past. You can provide the support, both moral and financial, to continue need-blind admissions and full financial aid so that Harvard can attract talented students from every race and background. You can help to ensure that free speech and inquiry remain central to the college's mission. You can be a major force in helping the university to maintain a strong and diverse faculty, one where women and minorities are increasingly full partners. Alumni must be full and active partners with future generations of students and faculty to ensure the quality of education offered here and to provide for positive changes and new policies as needed, while at the same time maintaining the important traditional values of the college. As one alumnus who has devoted all of his working years to the university, I can reassure you that your future contacts with the college will be both rewarding and enjoyable. Not the least of the benefits is the chance to work closely with friends and classmates, and thus to continue the close personal relationships formed here and which might otherwise be lost or eroded by time and distance. Your college can provide a point of contact which from time to time will draw you back to Cambridge and to the deep friendships formed here. As the years go by, you will more and more come to understand the ties which bind you both to each other and to this institution. If institutions like Harvard and democratic society at its best are to survive, you as citizens must equal or surpass the ideals, the activism, and the commitment which you have shown as students and which previous Harvard classes have demonstrated in their lives. Harvard, when at its best, has instilled in its graduates the sense of civic responsibility which leads them to make public service and service to this college a keystone of their lives. The legend on the Wigglesworth Gate leading from Mass Avenue to the Yard exhorts Harvard men and women, enter to grow in wisdom, depart to better serve thy country and thy kind. Your class has already begun its commitment to active service both within and without the college. That commitment must be continued and expanded if you are to live up to the expectations and hopes which your families, your college, and your country have of you today. In closing, let me again thank the class of 1995 for representing the standards and the traditions of the college so well. We are all beginning new stages of our lives and careers, but for me at least, the experience of the past few years will provide a bond which can never be broken. Congratulations and best wishes for your future.
Thank you, Dean Jewett. My name is Monica Solomon, and I'm your class secretary. That means I'm the person that you'll be writing to and receiving news from, but you'll hear more about that later. Today, I have the honor of introducing Mr. Champ Lyons, the president-elect of the association we will be members of only one day from now, the Harvard Alumni Association. Mr. Lyons graduated Harvard in 1962. A former resident of Winthrop House, his chief activity at Harvard was managing the football team. After graduating, he returned to Alabama to attend law school and settled in Mobile, where he joined a law firm, met his wife, and raised 2 children, one of whom graduated from Harvard a few years ago. Today, he is actively involved in civil litigation at the trial and appellate level and serves as the chair of the Alabama Supreme Court Advisory Committee on Civil Procedure. Like many of us, Mr. Lyons has been involved in many extracurricular activities in addition to his day job. He was a member of the class of 1962 25th Reunion Gift Committee, HAA Regional Director for the Southeastern States, and chair of the HAA Committee on Undergraduate Relations. Most recently, he served as HAA Vice President from 1992 to 1994 and as First Vice President from 1994 to 1995. Besides his activities in the Alumni Association, he has served as an alumni interviewer for Harvard since 1967 and is a Harvard campaign area representative. A role model for how we can stay active in the Harvard community after graduation, let us extend a warm welcome to the President-elect of the Harvard Alumni Association, Mr. Champ Lyons.
I am honored by your invitation. I congratulate not only the soon-to-be graduates on their conspicuous success, but also their parents for their often inconspicuous perseverance. I've been there. I once sat in this Tercentenary Theater as a senior from Alabama in 1962. I share this platform today with a very famous son of not only my home state, but also my hometown of Mobile. While I cannot undo the past, I decline to ignore it. Although we represent the same generation, my conscience compels me to observe that I traveled an easier road in order to reach this platform. Today I express my great respect for this famous son of Alabama and his accomplishments. I also salute the achievement of his Alabama parents. They obviously endowed him well with those strengths of character that allowed him the full utilization of his God-given talent. I also share this platform with yet another Alabamian, your class orator. That I precede rather than follow these two speakers is not an example of Shakespeare's reference to the insolence of office, but the result of adherence to a long-settled rule of sequence for which I am deeply grateful. For almost 4 centuries, then unfamiliar names and faces have repeatedly played out these same festival rites on this site and thereafter moved on, often to become well-known players on the world stage. Yet I must ask, is there a bond with earlier graduates? Is there something between you and the legions of young men and women who have on earlier commencement days passed through this same yard? A linkage that goes much deeper than the coincidence of a common venue. I submit that there is, and before speaking to you about the role of the Harvard Alumni Association, I would like to take a few moments to explain why I think this is so. The more obvious connection between you and me is the commonality of experiences that are sufficiently contemporary to have happened both in your era and mine. I too can recall being both amused and bemused by the passing parade of old grads. I am not offended by the fact that my presence might provoke similar reactions in some of you. I can also recall the grim reality of trying to complete the packing up of 4 years' accumulation of stuff, of thinking how much was left to be done on this last full day as an undergraduate, of looking ahead to the prospect of another sleepless and, yes, perhaps intemperate night as the end of these times finally was in hand. For me, and perhaps it will be for so many of you, the parting of company with Harvard was bittersweet, a sadness coupled with an exciting urge to move on to other places. Yet there is more to this issue of what we share than reminiscences. Let me try to illustrate it by drawing an analogy to the Harvard experience built around the nearby Harvard station on the Red Line. As first-year students, a token was purchased, and you joined a crowd of mostly strangers who stepped aboard with you for a ride to a fixed point. You took seats vacated by another group of strangers who raced to other destinations. The token was paid for by one or more of the following means: an endowment from a scholarship, a loan, part-time employment, and support from family. Once aboard, there was a sense that you did not own this train. You were being permitted merely to ride it for a limited period of time. The faces around you became familiar. Then the last stop approached, and the time came for you to disembark and race to other destinations, making room for yet another set of faceless strangers. Perhaps during the ride, or today, or hopefully at some later point in your life, you will realize that the price of the token did not cover the cost of the ride. Those who took this ride before you came along have subsidized the cost of your ride. And dealing with that reality is what bonds me to Harvard and what has drawn me to this time and place. The Harvard Alumni Association, or HAA, whose ranks you will soon join, offers the opportunity to continue the enrichment of the Harvard experience. It also offers the opportunity to serve for those who now, or perhaps later, will feel the undeniable tug of obligation overdue. The HAA consists of 250,000 men and women around the world who, like you, share the experience of this day and place. It is an association of extraordinary breadth and diversity, representing all schools, all disciplines, all life pursuits, and you are part of it. While the role of Harvard's Board of Overseers is governance, the purpose of the board of the HAA is the promotion of the welfare of Harvard University and the establishment of a mutually beneficial relationship between Harvard and its alumni. The HAA Board of Directors represents a diverse constituency determined by a combination of geography, class affiliation, and discipline. These directors meet 3 times a year here in Cambridge to learn, to advise, and return to their constituency with current information about Harvard. They work in standing committees which address issues ranging from applicant interviews, commencement, activities of the Harvard clubs around the world, reunions, travel study programs, and the nomination of candidates for the Board of Overseers and the Board of Directors of the HAA. The HAA continues a relationship that in some respects must end tomorrow, but in other respects will only just begin tomorrow. HAA joins people to one another and to Harvard as an institution, and it projects what Harvard represents to the world. After you leave the yard tomorrow for presentation of diplomas, we welcome you back here after lunch for the traditional annual meeting of the Harvard Alumni Association. For some of you, the tug of obligation for continued connectedness to this institution has already been felt. For some, it may not be felt right away, and sadly, for some, it may never occur. But for the great majority of you, when the opportunity or just simply the urge for involvement presents itself, nurture it, for the fruits of such labors are satisfying and enduring. I welcome you, the class of 1995, to the Harvard Alumni Association and wish you Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Adolph, and I'm the class treasurer. I'll be calling each and every one of you, parents excluded this time, and I'll take no excuses. And if you remember and contribute, the whole yard will be covered next year. The Harvard community is characterized by the students' desire to fill their 4-year schedule with a wide array of academic and extracurricular activities, whether it is attending class, playing a sport, singing in an a cappella group, publishing a newspaper, or socializing with students, or one of countless other opportunities at this institution. We try not to waste a minute of our experience here. Our next speaker, Joy Kallenberg Fallon, is a busy person. She epitomizes the spirit of a well-developed individual representative of Harvard University. She is a student at both the college and the law school, a legal professional, and the current president of the Radcliffe Alumni Association. As an undergraduate, Ms. Fallon served as a Radcliffe Marshal, chair of the Student Advisory Committee of the Institute of Politics, and vice president of the Harvard Radcliffe Democrats. At the law school, Ms. Fallon was a member of the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau. However, perhaps the most impressive accomplishment was Ms. Fallon's ability to meet her husband of 15 years, also a member of the class of 1978, during her undergraduate days. Thus, for all seniors who enjoyed themselves at the last chance dance, there still is hope. After graduating from law school in 1982, she clerked for a federal judge in Chicago, worked as an attorney in a Chicago law firm, served as chief legal counsel to a former Massachusetts governor, served as an assistant attorney general in the Commonwealth, and is currently assistant U.S. attorney. These credentials are sure to attract any corporate recruiter at OCS. Ms. Fallon's commitment to hard work does not stop at the office. She is the mother of a 7-year-old daughter and 3-year-old son. In addition to her accomplishments outside of Harvard, Ms. Fallon has kept Harvard an integral part of her life. As an alum, she has held the volunteer positions of both vice president and now president of the Radcliffe Alumni Association. It is this dedication to Harvard and her own career that I hope all of the class of 1995 will pursue after moving on from Cambridge tomorrow. I present to you Joy Fallon.
Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you this afternoon. In the last several months, in my final fleeting hours as president of the Radcliffe College Alumni Association, I've managed to wrangle some invitations to serve on alumni panels. One at the college here, sponsored by the Radcliffe Alumni Association, and another at the law school, sponsored by the Harvard Women's Law Association. These discussions were billed as career panels, and I was asked to discuss my work as an attorney in the public service, a topic which is near and dear to my heart. But we also engaged very quickly in a dialogue about the blending and the balancing and the juggling of our work commitments, our relationships with a spouse or a partner, our children and parents, the volunteer opportunities which are available to us in our community, and, oh yes, occasionally eking out some time for ourselves. In preparing for those occasions and for today, I realized that there were really two common themes which seemed to come to the fore each time. The first is my deeply held conviction, which really grows stronger in each passing year, that we must define success for ourselves, figuring out what special gifts you have, what inspires you, what you find fulfilling, where it is that you can have the greatest impact and be of service to others in this world that needs you so much, in whatever way best suits you, and then sticking to your guns about that. The second theme, and a predicate for the first, I find, is friendships. The relationships that sustain you, those people who help you sift and sort the wheat from the chaff, the ones who will kind of grab you by the scruff of the neck when you're about to go off the deep end, or maybe that kind of lone sound of applause that you get every once in a while when your achievement is really lost on everybody else. It can be tough to carve out your own definition of success based on your own values, but a support network of friends, those whom you nurture and who in turn sustain you, those friends and really those groups of people for me have made all the difference. And for me, this critical nature of friendships is what alumni associations are also about, and for me, where the Radcliffe College Alumni Association has come in. For me, the Radcliffe College Alumni Association, a group of women, in total about 27,000, all women grads who've come here through Harvard and Radcliffe, we come together to learn from one another's experience and tackle the issues that are of importance to us and to society. This morning, for example, syndicated columnist Ellen Goodman led a discussion by Radcliffe alumni of the different generations about the glass ceiling. Is it something they really have experienced or not? On Friday this week, other women alumni from across generations of graduates will be honored for their accomplishments, and they're going to comment on changing the rules, new leadership, and new priorities. And last month, Radcliffe's new Public Policy Institute focused on its major theme, women, work, and the economy. For me, over the years since graduation, as a working woman in today's world, with all its attendant joys and challenges, I've really come to treasure the ability to come together with other women who have been trained here with me in the Harvard and Radcliffe communities, who share my hopes, who understand my plans. It's here within the Alumni Association with friends derived from this place that I really discuss most often a number of the issues that really pervade my life, and those related to women and more broadly to women work in the economy. We talk together, we compare strategies, we're strengthened for what lies ahead, and we have a lot of fun. Currently, the Radcliffe Alumni Association is a very active recent grads committee. It's made up of all the women who have graduated here in the last 10 years. Groups regularly meet in Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, San Francisco, Palo Alto, and Philadelphia. This year we'll be beginning additional groups in Chicago, and thanks to one of your classmates, in Hong Kong. This year, the Radcliffe Alumni Association has sponsored numerous conferences around the country. We've continued work with Harvard on the important issue of adding more tenured women to the faculty, and we've helped support Radcliffe's new Public Policy Institute. Champ Lyons warmly welcomed all of us to participate fully in the Harvard Alumni Association, and the HAA offers men and women wonderful opportunities and a plenitude of programming. For you women in the class of 1995, I also have the great honor of welcoming you to the Radcliffe College Alumni Association. You have a great chance for dual citizenship. So check us out. The Radcliffe College Alumni Association. For me, it's been a place where friendships established here can continue to grow and new ones can begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fallon. I'm Daniel Saul, one of our class officers. When the person I'm about to introduce today was a resident tutor in Leverett House, he was famous for his frequent, if perhaps loud, renditions of his favorite operas. Nowadays, when the weather is slightly better than it is today, he's known for his friendly nod, quieter nod that is, as he walks through the yard on what seems to be a continuous loop. Above all, however, this man is probably best recognized for his vigorous fight to maintain a sacred presence here at Harvard, that of the bow tie. Archie C. Epps III is a member of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences and has served as the Dean of Students in Harvard College since 1971. His tenure as Dean has been exemplified by his mission to create understanding between various groups through open dialogue and communication, and his recent work in helping to create the Harvard Mediation Service is just one more example of this commitment. Dean Epps has implemented a number of projects, such as completing a thorough review of race relations in the college as part of his efforts to ensure that all members of Harvard are presented with the same opportunities and each are treated with the same degree of respect. His service has expanded well beyond the gates of Harvard, however, from serving as a member of the Massachusetts Commission on Judicial Conduct to being a trustee of the Boston Symphony Orchestra to working on programs which benefit local youth. His commitment to the communities in which he lives and works has been unfailing. In order to discuss the history and significance of the Ames Award, it is my great honor to present to you Harvard College Dean of Students, Archie Epps.
It is my pleasant responsibility on Class Day to help present the Ames Memorial Awards to two members of the senior class who, in the judgment of the class officers, have demonstrated outstanding qualities of leadership, self-reliance, and character. The awards are given in memory of Richard Glover Ames, 34, and his brother Henry R. Ames, 38, who gave their lives in an heroic attempt to save their father when he was lost overboard in a great storm at sea. Richard Glover Ames was president of the Student Council, second marshal of his class, secretary of Phillips Brooks House, captain of wrestling, and winner of the Francis H. Burr Prize Scholarship Award as the leading scholar athlete of his class. His brother Henry, who had just finished his freshman year at Harvard, was also active in Brooks House and was captain of freshman wrestling. In June of 1935, the two young men sailed with their father in the transatlantic yacht race from Newport, Rhode Island to Bergen, Norway. On June 19th, off Newfoundland, the yacht ran into a severe storm and their father was washed overboard. First Richard and then Henry tried to save their father, and all three were lost. The Ames Awards were established to recall those acts of commitment and courage. These recipients remind us what we should value most of all at Harvard. That is the individual member, for the character and faith that he or she brings to the effort. Through such persons, according to President Eliot, Harvard should be eager, sleepless, and untiring, never wasting a moment in counting laurels won, ever prompt to welcome and apply the liberality of the community, and liking no prospect so well as that of difficulties to be overcome and labors to be done in the cause of learning and public virtue. We do not know how to explain in full the birth of courage and commitment when they occur in quiet, unheralded ways. It often does include basic elements of choice. And perhaps Euripides described it best. He said, "There be many shapes of mystery, and many things God makes to be past hope or fear, and the end they looked for cometh not, and a path is there where no one sought, so hath it fallen here." The Ames Awards were established to keep before us the memory of moments of gallant courage in the face of hopeless odds, acts of unhesitating love, of loyalty, and of commitment of self to the needs of others. I ask the chairs of the Ames Committee, Ms. Burkus and Mr. Manelli, to complete the presentation of the Ames Awards by telling you about the recipients. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the 1995 Ames Award Committee, we would like to thank you, the class of 1995, for the outstanding group of classmates which you submitted for our consideration. This year, we received more nominations than any other committee in recent memory, and we believe this indicates, in large part, your concern and interest in the qualities which the Ames Award honors. In selecting this year's winners, we have learned about many wonderful people and found it very difficult to select only one man and one woman from such a strong pool of individuals. We cannot thank you enough for the care that went into your nominations. Over the course of a month, we met and deliberated late into the night to reach a decision. It was exciting to learn about these incredible people in the class of 1995, whose dedication and sacrifice exemplify the spirit of the Ames brothers and the award named in their honor.
Thank you, Nicola. On behalf of the Ames Award Selection Committee, I am honored to present the female recipient of the 1995 Ames Memorial Award to our class. She is someone whose achievements reflect a lifelong commitment to service. From childhood, she has always exhibited an extraordinary concern for others. Always a strong member of her family, she took an active interest in the lives of her three younger siblings. Despite personal hardship, she remained a strong source of support and guidance for her family. At Harvard, she continued to serve as a big sister, this time through the hand program in her house, making it her responsibility to bring joy and hope to the life of a young girl. Not only does she help her little sibling with schoolwork, take her to the movies, and work on arts and crafts, she also takes along the girl's little brother each week so that he will not feel left out. Such thoughtfulness for others always accompanies the service that this woman pursues. In fact, she needed no one to recruit her for public service. Instead, she independently sought out volunteer work to benefit the homeless and the disadvantaged in the Cambridge area. For example, before ever attending a class at Harvard, she spent a full summer running the food program for the homeless shelter at Porter Square. During her first year at Harvard, she began regular shifts at the University Lutheran Shelter, where she has since served as the shelter's director. Studying at Harvard and living in Cambridge, we have all been exposed to the loneliness of life and to the problems of the homeless. However, instead of looking the other way, and more than just volunteering her services, she befriends the homeless and gives them the respect and dignity and understanding they so rarely receive from others. For example, this woman helped one particular homeless man in many ways. She spent countless hours helping to prepare him for the GED exam, assisting his search for special federal housing, helping him to set up a bank account, and supporting him during his quest to remain sober through Alcoholics Anonymous. When this man was honored for 3 years of sobriety by his fellow AA members, she baked a cake and decorated it for this special occasion, bringing a smile to the man's face. Transcending conventional notions of service, she is first and foremost a good friend and a dedicated advocate for a better way of life. She continues her service to the homeless despite real threats to her person, and adversity only strengthens her resolve and commitment to serving those in need. Community service is not only what she does, but who she is. From her nomination letter, we find that, quote, "She has such a big heart. I believe she easily could have been elected to some board position at Phillips Brooks House, but she feels it would take her away from the whole reason she volunteers, connecting with those who really need help." She tries to understand and help the loneliness of life for individuals who have not received love and care from many other people. What is amazing is that through her service, she feels humbled by her experiences, and she learns from the people she serves. In every endeavor, she has the unique ability to see beauty in others, and she makes it her mission to bring joy to the lives of all she serves and befriends. The overwhelming sentiment of those who know her is that she cares very profoundly for people, and that other students feel deeply moved by her example. Her nominator also stated that, quote, "Her dedication and commitment to helping others is simply amazing. She directly impacts the lives of those she serves in a very positive and dignified way." Her nominator adds that, quote, "She has become a reliable friend to so many disadvantaged people, and I have seen firsthand the effect she has had on them." This remarkable young woman has the ability to see good in others and to inspire those around her through her service and her friendship. We would like to recognize the joy she has brought to everyone's life and acknowledge the courage and respect that she brings to serving others.
It is my great pleasure to present the Harvard man in the class of 1995 who represents all that we honor and value in the Ames brothers' sacrifice. He is a man who years ago conceived of a dream which has since led him across continents, serving both his home community and enabling him to reach out to others halfway across the world. Following years of public service in high school, he arrived at Harvard, dedicating his years here to engaging others sensitively and respectfully in the Boston and Cambridge communities. He has introduced incoming freshmen to public service through the first-year Oban program, met weekly with inmates of the Suffolk County Prison, tutoring them as part of the prisoner education program, worked as an escort for Safety Walk, and served as a peer counselor on Contact. We honor him today for this contribution to our community, as well as the inspiration he evokes in the students around him, an inspiration which can only be sufficiently voiced by those who know him. I will attempt to represent their voices here today. There is a photograph at this man's bedside that conveys his compassion, humility, and sensitivity. It depicts a scene at Mother Teresa's mission in India, in which he kneels barefoot beside an emaciated and dying man. The scene was typical of the summers he spent volunteering at the mission, during which time it was not uncommon for people to die in his arms. the youngest volunteer ever to serve in Kaligat, the Center for the Dying at the Missionaries of Charity Home for Dying Destitutes in Calcutta, India. He has worked there almost every summer since he turned 17. Last year, he provided AIDS education and outreach in prostitute communities in Bombay. This year's Harvard Magazine Commencement Guide carries an article entitled, "Not Just Two Front Teeth, Suitable Graduation Gifts," alongside appeals for, among other things, a massage, a saxophone, a 58 Plymouth, and a Democratic Congress, gifts many of us might desire, is the unusual request for $15,000 to start a daycare center in Bombay for the children of prostitutes. In fact, today's recipient has subsequently received funding and relinquished his acceptance at the Yale School of Public Health for the next 2 years, while he runs an educational and health program for the orphan children of prostitutes in India. After that, he plans to study medicine. He is determined to make a difference, and does because he engages people with consideration and love, recognizing that behind every cause are individuals who deserve respect, even if they require assistance. Like our other recipient, he shares the remarkable ability to feel humbled by those he serves. We wish to honor him today for more than simply public service, but for his consistent determination in the face of great obstacles and courage at real physical threat to his safety. For this man, service is intrinsically satisfying, and he neither seeks nor expects recognition of his compassion, rewards for his selflessness, or prizes for his dedication. We are moved and inspired by his example. It is my great pleasure to present this extraordinary person to you today.
Thank you, Nicola. We invite the winners to come up to the stage to receive their awards, presented in acknowledgement of their achievements and in recognition of all that they will offer in the future. Please hold your applause until we have read both names. The 1995 Ames Memorial Award winners are Maria Paula Rogan
and Sartak Das.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you, Nicola. My name is Jojo Rhee, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our Harvard orator, Clark Dean. Clark is a biomedical engineering concentrator from Mather House who has been a highly visible member of the Harvard community, if not for his 6'3" stature, then for his active involvement in undergraduate life. In the past 4 years, I'm sure most of us recall seeing Clark on the steps of Widener spewing random facts about our hallowed halls on one of his Crimson Key tours. Aside from giving tours for the Crimson Key, Clark has been busy playing defensive end for the varsity football team, prefecting for first years, serving on Model UN, and representing Mather on our very own class committee. My subcommittee within class committee has been hard at work since January in preparation for this day. Apparently, we forgot to strike a deal with the rain gods. My apologies. In preparation for selecting speeches, our committee figured the earlier we publicize the speech auditions, the sooner we'd get submissions and avoid the rush on deadline day. Not true. Despite the 2-month advance notice, along with everyone else, Clark submitted his speech in true Harvard fashion, the very last minute. Nevertheless, we're glad he managed to turn it in on time because now we have the opportunity to hear his parting thoughts for the class of '95. I give you Clark Dean.
Well, I remember the last time we gathered here in Tercentenary Theater as a class. It was the fall of 1991, first day of our Harvard experience. As wide-eyed freshmen, we were challenged by the words of the soon-to-be inaugurated president of Harvard University and our classmate, Neil Rudenstein. And amidst the constant interruption of sirens from the Cambridge Fire Department, we were assured by the stately voice of Dean Knowles that Cambridge is not burned down at quite so frequent a rate normally. We sat right here under this canopy of green, minus the umbrellas, and with Widener Library rising behind us and Memorial Church rising up before us, we looked around and we said, wow, this is Harvard, without perhaps knowing what Harvard really was. Now, we gather here again in Tercentenary Theater to celebrate 4 years of friendship and challenges that have come to represent our Harvard experience. As President Rudenstein promised, we've been challenged both inside and outside the classroom by professors and peers alike. We pursued our academic ambitions, although sometimes having convinced our parents it's really the pursuit that counts. And we've embarked on many missions of physical competition, of creative excellence, and of the philosophical defense of those individual values and beliefs which we hold so dear. Our tasks have not always been easy, nor have they always been successful. But in the immortal words of Theodore Roosevelt, Harvard class of 1880, they've been valuable. For it's not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the strong man stumbled, or how the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best in the end knows the triumph of high achievement, and at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place may never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Well, over 4 years, I venture to say that we've all had our little tastes of victory, as well as our fair share of character-building experiences. But our quest for truth has not been limited just to personal goals and accomplishments. After all, just as the third book on the old Harvard seal is turned over as though to indicate that all truth does not come from books, our experiences with each other have truly provided an essential component to our educational experience here. In Gen Ed 105, that famed senior class on the literature of social reflection, we came across Bruegel's painting Icarus and W.H. Auden's Musée des Beaux-Arts, which together highlight the importance of being attentive to the lives of others. In the painting, the legs of the foolish youth who flew too close to the sun with wax wings disappears in a big splash in the water amidst the bustle of an ordinary day. Auden points out that the single most important event in Icarus's life is death, when completely unnoticed by the delicate ship that must have had some place to get to and thus sailed calmly on. No one seemed to notice the splash, but no one seemed to really care. Such splashes surround us all the time in our everyday lives as people encounter important events in their own lives. Not all of them are traumatic, some of them can be really exciting, but they're nonetheless very easy to overlook. I'm convinced that our experiences here at Harvard and Radcliffe have been rich because we've learned to stop and hear the splash. We've read each other's articles, papers, and poetry. We've watched each other's theatrical performances and sporting events. We've listened to each other's vocal and instrumental talents. We've shared in the shaping of history as debates and demonstrations on campus have reached ears all across this land. I think now, at last, we truly know what Harvard is. Look around. Harvard is so much more than just some ivy-covered tower of academic excellence. It's so much more than a bunch of red brick buildings with imposing columns, or a little plot of grass with a bunch of dying elm trees. Look around. Harvard's in the eyes of each and every person here today. Harvard's the people. the people who share in this common experience, those who have challenged themselves in a pursuit of excellence, who have stayed up all through the night trying to resolve the world's problems, who have exchanged opinions on a ridiculous variety of different topics across the dining hall table, and yet have still found time just to stop, relax, and enjoy each other's company. It's an experience that has been shared by men and women for centuries, and one that binds generations together. It is one in which professors and students alike contribute their unique personal backgrounds, make friends with people to whom they might have otherwise never even spoken, and share not only of their disciplines, but of their lives, so that they can grow together in wisdom in their search for truth. As we celebrate the commencement of the Harvard-Radcliffe class of 1995, may we seek to approach our service to this world in the same manner with which we pursued truth in our education, by never failing to challenge ourselves, and by never failing to stop and hear the splash.
Thank you, Clark. I'm Alvin Bragg, one of the class officers, and it's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce Natasha Leland, who will present the Radcliffe oration. Yesterday, Presidents Rudenstein and Wilson joked with our class about the difficulty of imparting noble truths to a group anxiously awaiting their degrees. We can definitely attest to that sentiment. But what we probably have not, and fortunately for us, Natasha has, thought about is the benefit of our forward-looking posture in the fast-paced, technological real world which awaits us. Just as important as Natasha's message is the example she has set over the past 4 years. As Clark suggested, Harvard's best resources are its people and the thoughts which we have. She has been an excellent caretaker of those two best resources. As a 4-year resident of Dudley House, a cooperative living community where the students do all of their own cooking and cleaning, she has treated many of us and cared for many of us as a family member would. I know firsthand that she has invited many of us up to Dudley House to experience her own homemade pizza. Furthermore, Natasha has helped guide and direct many of our own thoughts. Specifically as an English concentrator and an accomplished poet, she has learned the power of language to convey one's thoughts. Whether it has been as editor-in-chief of the Crimson's magazine, 15 Minutes, or as the organizer of public readings for The Advocate, Harvard's oldest literary magazine, she has taught us and the greater Cambridge community this lesson of the power of language. Now I present to you Natasha Leland and her thoughts for the class of 1995.
Thanks, Alvin. You can read about all of his accomplishments in tomorrow's Crimson. Good, if somewhat rainy afternoon. Since, according to the media, Congress, and our parents, we have shorter attention spans and memories than a fish with a headache, I thought maybe I should just give you the sound bites. Radcliffe Sr. gives speech. Says students have short attention spans. Okay, everyone, you can go home now and watch TV. Admittedly, there is a difference between a short attention span and a short memory. Harvard officials certainly understand that distinction. It seems to me the core must be based on the assumption we don't have the capacity for long-term memory anymore. Okay, Dean Rosofsky said to himself, we can't expect these kids to remember what we teach them, so we'll just teach them how to learn. I took an astronomy core my first year. Could I tell you anything more about it than that I liked my teaching fellow's taste in clothing? Right now? Probably not. But even that class, taken 4 years ago, had an impact on me, I'm sure. It's just that my attention has moved on to focus on other things. How many of you have groaned when a friend or offspring has changed their concentration again? Even if I don't wake up one morning saying to myself, black hole, that's it, black hole. The fact is, I will recall what were to me the important details of my 4 years here, both the intellectual and emotional, the ones I felt inspired enough by to store in my personal memory bank. Our memories play tricks on us. By this time next year, we'll have forgotten why we were so eager to leave. We remember the strangest things anyway. My first year, the Radcliffe Oration was an extended metaphor on tuna fishing. All I can conjure up now is that we were supposed to be tuna fishers. Over the years, I keep trying to think of what that could tell me, how the metaphor applied, but all I can hear is this woman repeating the words tuna fishers over and over. Student admits you probably won't remember this speech either. People have short attention spans and short memories. These memory gaps aren't unusual. People have been forgetting the details of classes and speeches since this university began. The difference is that now we have more to forget, and if we do forget it, we can recall it at the push of a button. Part of the reason we can't force our overtaxed brains into remembering what we had for breakfast yesterday, let alone who the Democratic contenders were in 1992, isn't our fault. We're bombarded with so much information at such a speed, it's a miracle we catch anything. The information superhighway, I know you love that phrase, the media certainly does, has exploded in our college years. Some of us even email our parents, not to mention the people who live next door. Why walk down the hall when you could communicate succinctly within seconds over the net? And there are not only news groups and chat groups and email campaigns, but there are publications about them. We started on a 2-lane road, it fast became the superhighway, and we're already floating in cyberspace. We can't even keep the term straight, let alone slow down to think. As everything gets faster, there gets to be more of it. At Harvard-Radcliffe, the preponderance of different student publications leaves little time to wonder why we don't have time to read the New York Times anymore. Student says, increased information attacks make attention spans necessarily short. Thank you for listening. Even the body of knowledge, we should know, has been reformed. It is as respected to read Toni Morrison as Milton. We may read Confucius for a moral reasoning requirement instead of Kant. Then again, we have to have short attention spans and high adaptability in order to keep up. When we arrived, there was no provost. Then there was one. Then there wasn't. Then there was a new one. Then the new one became acting president, and the president left. And then his face appeared on some national magazine we didn't have time to read. Welcome back, Mr. President. Great speech yesterday. We're honored you consider yourself part of our class, although I see you're absent again today. I think I remember your speech from 2 years ago. It was long, but I think the suggestion was that we should donate money, or rather, that's probably all I thought we needed to know. Even at Yale, they can't seem to keep their presidents very long. Didn't one of them leave to become baseball commissioner? Wait, what happened to baseball? Did I miss something? For that matter, what's going on now in Kobe? Remember the earthquake? Or Armenia? Student starts listing forgotten catastrophes in case the details escaped you. If there's one thing we understand as we go out into a volatile world, is that nothing is permanent. Didn't we see Bush have an over 80% approval rating when we arrived our first year? Didn't Rabin and Arafat shake hands at the White House? We're chided for having these short memories and attention spans. Did you hear what I just told you? But they're going to help us later in life. We live in a quickly changing world where we will have to adapt to changes in our own situations as well as in others. In the end, the philosophy behind the core curriculum is correct. We really are here to learn how to learn, a skill we should not forget. We have grown with this changing time, and Harvard-Radcliffe has helped us learn to adapt to it. As we take our knowledge and our energy and our modems and computers out into the world, that is the one thing we will not let slip away. It is sad how each topic only gets a moment in the sun, only gets a meager 15 minutes of nightly news time. Bosnia, we say, that's too big a problem. Give us something easier to solve. Somalia, Rwanda, what more can we do to help? But what we have gained here is invaluable. We all share a Harvard-Radcliffe education and the possibilities it opens up for us. If we can make sure not to forget, make sure to care deeply about one thing long enough to make a difference, we will achieve something. even if no one else will ever have time to listen to it on the news. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Connolly, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Ivy Oration. Hi, Grandma. I wanted to say hi to my grandmother because she gave me a great piece of advice this morning. She told me that if I get nervous, to look out and look everybody in the eye and just imagine them in their underwear. Unfortunately, God has played a cruel hand in this, and I have to envision umbrellas in boxer shorts and t-shirts. The Ivy Oration is given on each class day by that senior who composes a speech chronicling the experience of the class in a humorous vein. This year, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Eric Baker, a man not afraid to brown nose with the best of teaching fellows. A man not afraid to travel miles out of his way to give money to his favorite charity, the Foxwoods Casino, Ledyard, Connecticut. I was told to introduce Eric by discussing his good characteristics, but I was also told that I'd have to speak for a minute and a half. Hey, there's only so many ways you can say Eric has great hair. So I thought instead what I'd do is I'd discuss the year-long struggle and rigorous process which yielded Eric Baker, wacky, zany, motivational speaker. It all began this past fall when Eric enrolled in 2 core curriculum courses. One, Literature and Art C42, entitled Roseanne Barr, Misunderstood Comic Genius. This gave Eric a role model. The second course, Moral Reasoning 98, Why Did the Chicken Cross the Road, gave Eric the philosophical background necessary to deliver today's speech. But before he could deliver today's speech, Eric had to begin the second part of his quest to become the funniest senior by outdueling the only other competitor, a Lampoon staff writer. In a competition that lasted 23 minutes, Eric won 9-8 because he knew more there once was a man from Nantucket limericks. Following this procedure, a cash payment and a shipment of Pioneer sandwiches from the dining hall were delivered by the Baker family to select members of the class committee, and it was sealed. Eric became the Ivy Orator. Well, now that I've dazzled you with my horrendous sense of humor, it gives me great pleasure to give you a truly funny man, someone who's going to bring a little sunshine on this dreary day, someone who's been a great friend of mine since I was a freshman, and someone who I hope will be a great friend of mine for the rest of my life. In his speech entitled, Luke Goes to Harvard, a Jedi in Cambridge, I'm very happy to give you Eric Baker.
Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Luke Goes to Harvard. Luke Goes to Harvard? Yes. Let me tell you about the new Star Wars film, Luke Goes to Harvard, a Jedi in Cambridge. Not being a jock, a legacy, or especially smart, Darth Vader is rejected by Harvard. Vader turns to the dark side of the Force, Yale University. Darth plots to construct a new Death Star, a device so powerful that it will wreak havoc on Cambridge, catapulting Yale past Harvard in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. Fortunately, Luke Skywalker vows to save the galaxy. Yoda instructs Luke that only a Harvard degree will give him the education, experience, and overly inflated ego that he'll need to defeat Vader. Luckily, Luke has some time, since it'll take a while for the Elis to overcome their lack of funding. So Luke sets out to attend Harvard. Obi-Wan Kenobi is an alum, making Luke a quasi-legacy. And Luke also has geographic distribution going for him. He's the only applicant from the planet Tatooine. Skywalker's accepted early action. Luke's adjustment to Harvard isn't easy. As a Jedi Knight, Luke expects to be held in awe by his classmates. But it turns out that everyone had been a Jedi Knight back home. Luke feels hopeless at first, but he learns quickly. He replaces his lightsaber with a number 2 pencil and practices the religion of study groups, borrowed problem sets, and enrolling in courses like sports and society. Skywalker even starts using Yoda's intergalactic driver's license to gain admission to the Crimson Sports Grill. And soon he's using Jedi mind tricks on weak-minded teaching fellows. You will give Luke an A. When Luke goes home on vacations, he's amazed that everyone assumes he's a genius. But after a while, it gets quite annoying, and he starts trying not to mention Harvard. So where do you go to school, Skywalker? In the Milky Way? On Earth? Once they hear the name Harvard, they usually say something pretty insightful, like, "Gosh, you must be really smart." Back at Harvard, Luke still misses his pals from Tatooine. Imagine his excitement when he picks up the Crimson newspaper one morning and sees the headline, "Chewbacca first Wookiee to be named football captain." Chewbacca, or Chewie as he's called by his teammates and DU club brothers, is a 3-time Mather House beer pong champion and speaks clearer English than the average science TF. Luke reunites with Chewie, time flies by, and soon it's graduation. Meanwhile, rumor has it that Vader isn't very happy in New Haven. Construction on the Death Star has been delayed numerous times due to striking teaching fellows, and the macho Vader has already been mugged twice. Yet, the Death Star is completed, and Vader issues an ultimatum. Either Harvard admits Yale's superiority, or the Death Star will melt down the statue of John Harvard, eliminating 3 of the many lies to be found on the Crimson Key Society tour. President Rudenstein, Harvard's fearless, if not tireless, leader, is on leave, leaving Dean of Students Archie Ace Epps at the helm. Ever the innovator, Ace establishes a task force. The crisis receives attention all over campus. The Crimson interrupts its 40-part series on the undergraduate council to report on it. The liberal monthly Perspective argues that Vader is simply a misunderstood victim, while the reactionary Peninsula claims Vader is symbolic of everything wrong with illegal aliens. And Harvard's humor magazine, The Lampoon, does a parody in which Darth Vader is an evil aardvark and Luke is a sex-starved monkey. No one thinks it's funny. A week before the attack date, Luke storms into Dean Epps' office. 2 things, Dean Epps. 1, I'm your man to stop the Death Star. And 2, lose the bow tie. Ignoring number 2 entirely, Dean Epps gives Luke the green light to lead a mission. Fortunately, Luke has acquired blueprints that reveal that the Death Star has a meltdown button. Why anyone would include a meltdown button, Luke can never figure out. But then again, this is Yale he's dealing with. The night of the attack arrives. The Harvard administration throws an ice cream bash. And the UC pays $60,000 for the return of De La Soul. Luke times the attack perfectly. He arrives at the Death Star on Monday night at 8 p.m. All of the Eli stormtroopers are watching Melrose Place, leaving Vader, who owns a VCR, to guard the Death Star. We'll see how smart you are now, Mr. Harvard man, Darth yells as he activates his lightsaber. Thinking quickly, Luke distracts the dim-witted Vader with an Energizer Bunny and hits the meltdown button. The galaxy is saved. The Force rocks on, and Harvard remains number 1. Luke graduates Summa and lands a job with Goldman Sachs in their newly formed Tatooine office. Darth finishes as Yale valedictorian and parlays his degree into a coveted post issuing rebate checks at the Coop. He hopes to go to Harvard Law, but we'll save that story for the sequel.
Hi, I'm Heidi Thompson, and I'm very honored to have the opportunity to introduce our Class Day speaker to you. In choosing our Class Day speaker, this year's committee looked to those it represented. We turned to you, our classmates, for whom Class Day would be a special and intimate celebration of our 4 years of learning at Harvard. The significance of Class Day cannot be fully understood until it is upon you, as it is at this very moment. We considered hundreds of suggestions made by our class. The decision to invite our guest was unanimously and enthusiastically made by a committee that wanted to ensure that we share our Class Day with a fitting representative of our ideals and aspirations. Today we are taking the first step toward an uncertain horizon that intrigues, bewilders, and frightens us. We are embarking upon the next phase of our lives' journeys, and the ever-present fear of growing up holds our hearts in its fierce grip. It is fear of discovering a world less enchanting than the one we have experienced through our youth and naivete. Outside of our parents, I have found that my increasing age has limited my options for heroes and role models in my life. Those to whom we look for leadership and justice can often let us down or mislead us. This year, the Harvard and Radcliffe classes of 1995 have been fortunate enough to have a true hero, a leader who has not let us down in a lifetime of over 60 years, to be our Class Day guest speaker. Our guest today comes from humble beginnings. He began playing baseball as a child in rural Mobile, Alabama, and when he stepped off his first train into the big city to play professional baseball, he carried 2 silver dollars his mother, Estella, had given him. There was nothing that could keep Mr. Hank Aaron from the excellence he would give his country over the span of his careers. 21 years ago, on a warm April evening, a little bit different than today, Henry Hank Aaron hit a home run that placed him in the record books of a cherished game we know as Major League Baseball. We have with us today a man who has hit 755 home runs, won 2 Major League batting titles, was the 1957 Most Valuable Player, and had an athletic career that spanned nearly 3 decades. These are the qualities of an immortal sports hero. But the reason we were so excited about sharing our Class Day with Hank Aaron has only a small amount to do with his athletic accomplishments. The man we asked to join us today is a hero who transcends any individual field of specialty. We have here a true humanitarian who has fought a lifetime of difficult battles so that those who come after him are given justice and equality in whatever field they choose to work and live in. Every home run Hank Aaron hit brought him closer to his record as baseball's home run king. But each challenge he faced with strength, courage, and dignity brought him closer to our hearts, closer to a nation that has struggled at times in its search for heroes and role models. In a growing global community, we need the example of people who can cross racial, social, economic, and religious barriers to work for the equality of all people. Hank Aaron has led a life we can be envious of. He has by no means had an easy life, but the dignity and strength with which he has faced adversity and triumphed should be an example to all of us. The 23-year baseball career might seem to be enough of an accomplishment for most people. But instead of retiring and relaxing, Mr. Aaron immediately involved himself in another campaign that would hold him for another 20-odd years. He took his status as one of the greatest players of all time and used it to reach out to people across the lines that so often divide us. That campaign is his unwavering effort to achieve equality and dignity for those who are too often underrepresented in the business world and in arenas where talented contributions should be accepted from all who are willing to give. He has consistently given his time and effort to work for those who may not have a voice. He does this because he knows that he has a voice, a loud, booming, hammering voice that penetrates our thoughts and captures our hearts. Today, we are fortunate enough to hear the hammering voice that has helped change the social climate of a nation. I say to you, our Harvard and Radcliffe classes of 1995, and our families, the learning has not ended. It has only begun. A lifetime of learning, striving, and persevering awaits us. We can only hope to take an example from our cherished and respected guest. And as we thank him for joining us today, we should also thank Mrs. Billy Aaron, who was instrumental in her husband's life and in bringing him to us today. I give to you Mr. Hank Aaron.
Thank you very much. Before I begin my remarks, I would like to ask everyone here to remember a very dear friend of mine who's in the hospital in Texas, Mickey Mantle, who is very, very ill. And I would like for all of you to remember him in your prayers when you go to church. Please do. Thank you. President Rudenstein, First Marshals, faculty, alumni, parents, family, and friends of Harvard and Radcliffe class of 1995. I am truly honored to be here. I must admit that I was reluctant to accept this invitation until my wife, Billy, who is more in tune with the academic community than I, convinced me that there are two invitations that you just don't turn down for any reason. One is an invitation to the White House, and the other one is a Harvard-Radcliffe University invitation. Of course, I'm extremely flattered by the invitation, for although it is really not a part of my nature, I can now boast of having received 3 invitations to this great institution. The first occurred 21 years ago when I was invited by Walter Leonard, who was Assistant Dean of Harvard Law School and Special Assistant to President Darius Bach. That invitation came during the baseball season and I wasn't able to come. My wife and I was here in April as guests of Dr. Alan Counter and the Harvard Foundation. We was honored and impressed by the kind and generous manner in which we were received. It was on that occasion that we were approached by the First Marshals, Harvard and Radcliffe, with a letter of invitation to be the Class Day speaker. This time, Billy, who had never forgiven me for denying her the opportunity to visit Harvard back in 1974, was not leaving anything to chance. She immediately made sure that my calendar was clear. So Elena and Jamie, thank you for helping me redeem myself. Seriously though, it is really quite an honor to be invited to share in this happy, historic, and important day in your life. It is also meaningful to me because the invitation comes from a generation of young people who, if born, was babies when I hit my 715th home run. I'm told that Class Day is planned by and for students, and it means a lot to me that you young people thought that I might have something significant to say to your generation. It is a bit unsettling as well as quite a challenge for me to stand before one of the smartest and most talented group of students in all of higher education the graduating seniors of the oldest and most prestigious university in the nation, I am overwhelmed. Someone told me a story about a young man who, after graduating last year, went running up to his father and said, "Look, Dad, I got it. I got my BA from Harvard." To which the father replied, "Son, that's fine. We are all very proud of you. Now it's time for you to go to work learning the rest of the alphabet." Today, let me say to you the same thing that this father said to his father said to his son. First, congratulations to each of you. A degree from Harvard and Radcliffe is a tremendous achievement, and you made a lot of people very proud of you. As parent of 5, I know well the joy that comes when your son or daughter graduates from college. I can feel for you parents. This day represents a fulfillment of dreams. So congratulations to all of you. Now you can exhale. I thought a long time about what I should say to you today, and when I did, several words came to my mind: change, challenge, obligation, privilege, responsibility, and tone, all of which I shall mention at least once during these remarks. I thought what it is that this institution does and the feeling that I need for a topic. I decided that I would talk to you about preparation. Preparation for a changing world. I think it's generally agreed that preparation is the key to success in any profession. I know that was the case in my own profession. I could not have accomplished all of the things that I was able to accomplish had I not prepared myself mentally and physically. The mind and the body are co-partners in athletics. An athlete cannot abuse either if he or she wants to get the full mileage out of her career. For me, exercising and keeping my body in good condition was a year-round practice. I realized early in my career that if I were to be successful, I had to be physically fit and mentally alert. I was taught that as a Boy Scout. I knew I had to keep my mind clear and free of drugs. I had to stay focused, study the opposing team, learn what to expect from the pitcher in a 1-ball and 2-strike count, study his move, get into his head, determine what the situation called for, and be prepared. Although the initial preparation was started before the game, I had to use every game as a preparation for the next. When I think back over my career, there are 5 words that I think best describe my preparation: patient, persistent, practice, and performance. I have no doubt that the preparation you have received here at Harvard and Radcliffe is second to none. I'm impressed by your stamina, your intellect. You have endured, you have survived, and you have achieved. Like everything else in life, success and achievement have their price. 4 long years of self-discipline, hard work, and no small amount of sacrifice, you have, I imagine, experienced your fair share of highs and lows. But you have stayed the course and now stands ready to take on a whole new world. In my own life, I always knew that I had to get up early, work harder, train longer, run faster, hit harder, endure hardship more, and complain less if I was going to succeed. I believe that many of the same demands have been made of you. While the environment may have been different, the expectations are probably nearly the same. Let me remind you, graduates, that your learning has only just begun. Like the Father said, most of the alphabet of your own individual life is still out there waiting to be learned. The climate and the condition that you will find as you pursue this knowledge will be much less friendly than what you have at Harvard and Radcliffe. Here, your formal education has been under controlled condition. Your life was pretty much structured for you. You have followed a set course. You have competed with some of the nation's brightest and most gifted. You have studied under some of the world's greatest teachers, been exposed to the great ideas of the world, to professors from diverse cultures of different races and creed and religions. Because of the proud history and the reputation as the best, the education that you received here gives you an access to the world. It is your right to passage. To the graduate school of your choice, to the major corporations of America, to governmental service and politics. Whatever your interests, a degree from Harvard and Radcliffe open doors. But of course, if you can't hit a curveball, I wouldn't advise you to try out for the Atlanta Braves. As I think you will agree, much of what you have learned in this controlled environment is the accumulated knowledge of other people. Tomorrow, when you leave Harvard and Radcliffe, you will be stepping out into a world where your learning will come from your own accumulated experience. In this ever-changing world, unfriendly and hostile, you will learn the rest of the alphabet. From my vantage point, you have nothing to fear, for you have been prepared by the best. You have earned a degree from two of the finest universities in the world. And since an education provides the surest springboard to success, I am confident that your success is just one inning away. A graduate of Harvard Radcliffe, you also possess the power to serve the world in ways that very few of your peers would be able to equal. Because of the privilege and advantage that you have had, you will have an opportunity to set tone for the next generation. Some of you will lead the World Corporation in government. It is very important that the right people set the right tone to society. People with an aim and motive to serve the nation and all of its citizens. People with an understanding of an appreciation for history and commitment to justice. When I was growing up in the Jim Crow South, racism and bigotry, attitude and action was accepted as just the way things are. That was the tone of the nation. Because of that tone, African Americans was denied the basic rights and privileges that other Americans enjoyed and took for granted. Ironically, the country seemed to have come full circle. To put it another way, the more things change, the more they stay the same. For 30 short years, the nation has been less than aggressive in its attempt at leveling the playing field. There are those who are shaking their responsibility to help make life fair and just and provide opportunities for those who have historically been kept down and shut out. You are entering the world of work at a time when affirmative action is being debated, debased, and denigrated. It is also being used as a scapegoat. When our country seemed bent on playing a game with the hope and aspiration of a people who for over 300 years have been denied equal access. As bright, intelligent young people, I hope you will take advantage of the educational experience you have had and the knowledge you've gained here at Harvard Radcliffe to set a high morale tone in whatever you pursue. This nation needs men and women who will do the right thing because it is right. We need leaders who will not give in or back down because the right thing may be politically unpopular. I challenge this class to lead the way and remember, as it is written in the Bible, to whom much is given, much is expected. There's a world out there beyond the gates of Harvard and Radcliffe, begging for leadership, a world with growing social ills. It is a violent world, a crime-infested world with homeless and hopeless people. It is a world waiting to be healed. If not now, when? If not you, then who? Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aaron. On behalf of the class committee and the class of '95, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation to you for giving us your time and for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. In addition, I would like to thank all the people who have made our class day so wonderful. Our speakers, the senior class committee, the class of '95, our families, and our friends. Most of all, it is very important that two special people be recognized and thanked over and over again. Diane Jellis, the Associate Director of Classes and Reunions at the Alumni Association in Wadsworth House, and Diane's assistant, Kathy Fazzolaro. These two women So you know, these two women have been the backbone, the heart, and the spirit of Class Day. And to the members of Class Committee, Diane and Kathy have been mom, sis, and friend. We can't thank you enough. Now, I apologize for stealing spotlight, but I'd like to point it at the Class of '95 again. After all, Class Day '95 is coming to a close, and tomorrow, my fellow classmates, you will graduate. You will return your caps and gowns to the almighty coop. You will leave Harvard, you will frame and hang those diplomas, and then, well, what then? Then is the future, which is all too quickly becoming the present. You've all heard plenty of advice and speeches and lectures on the topic of that future, so since I am the last speaker today, and because I am a woman not known for her height, but rather for her lack thereof, I will attempt to ensure that these closing comments will be short and sweet. So I think it is safe to say that in our 4 years at Harvard, many of us have learned that there's nothing we can't do. When walls and obstacles appear in the path, no one guides us around them, but we've learned to find or make a way beyond or over those bumps in the road. But wherever your determination, intelligence, ambition, charm, or good looks take you, when you're reaching for success and wielding the Harvard name mightily as you leap over glass ceilings with a single bound, please remember to stop and look. Look at the person next to you. Look at the person inside of you. The most important thing in life, after all the Hollywood contracts and corporate mergers, will always be the people you love and the people who love you. As you soar to new heights or plummet to old lows, remember what you've learned about yourself and about each other. In light of the deaths which have occurred at Harvard this year, please take care of yourselves and take care of one another. Especially next year, remember that you are not alone in your fears, your confusion, and your excitement. As part of the class committee and as First Marshal, I want to ensure that all of you know that for better or for worse, Harvard will never be far away. True, you will be getting mail from Harvard until the day you die, but hopefully through those same alumni connections, you will also be able to stay in touch with one another until that same day. We're making every effort to collect lists of email addresses for next year, and of course, we've already planned a worldwide party. On September 14th, 1995, in cities around the world, the class of '95 will have its first simultaneous celebration. More details will follow, but for now, please call us, write to us, email us, because class of '95, after tomorrow, we will scatter far and wide around this planet. Some of you may be glad to never see these people again, but I hope you'll feel otherwise. You're an amazing group of people, and wherever and however you find happiness and success, I hope you'll let your classmates know how you're doing. Stay in touch, take care, and good luck. Last of all, we are going to sing the class ode. So if you look on the back of your programs, there is a verse of Fair Harvard and the verse which Adam Berger, our class odist, has written. So if you would all join us in singing. And then after the class ode, that will be the close of Class A ceremonies. Thank you very much.
Fair Harvard, thy sons to thy jubilee throng, and with blessings surrender thee o'er. By these festival rites from the age that is past to the age that is waiting before. O relic and type of our ancestors' worth, that has long kept their memory warm. First flower of their wilderness, star of their night, come rising through change and through storm. Farewell be thy destinies, onward and bright, to thy children the lesson still give. With freedom to think and with patience to bear, and the right ever bravely to live. Let not moss-covered air o'er thee at its side, as the world on truth's current glides by. Be the herald of light and the bearer of love, till the stock of the Puritans die. Fair Harvard, forgive us our lateness to class, those Lamont books 10 weeks overdue. The sections we cut 'cause we couldn't get up, and the lectures we sometimes slept through. Forgive us the times that we stayed at the grill, when we should have gone home to our Macs. Drunk stumbles while parties, those kegs in the yard, any tryst held within Widener stacks. Thank you for the caffeine on all-nighters pulled, keeping us from a sore sleepy haze. For the life-changing classes that opened our minds, and the gusts that raised our GPAs. Now we say our farewells to thy verdant green lawns, to thy brick-covered buildings so red. We'll remember our time here and use what we learned in the non-ordered choices ahead.
Thank you very much. You can go home now.